He could afford to make her disappear. He couldn't afford to forget her. 6:47 a.m. The same ritual, 3 years running. Nadia Cole sets the espresso on Callum Ashford's desk. Precise, soundless, the muscle memory of devotion. But this morning, her hand trembles. He doesn't look up, doesn't drink. When the woman who knows you better than anyone, who takes your espresso at 6:47, who laughs at your terrible jokes in empty conference rooms, who rereads your mother's letters when you can't, was paid to destroy you. Is every moment of tenderness evidence or alibi? The espresso goes cold between them. Neither moves. The clock ticks to 6:48. The city is still a geometry of shadows when Nadia Cole arrives. 68th floor. The elevator releases her into the executive corridor, where silence costs $7,000 per square foot. Her heels are muted against Carrara marble, the same quarry Michelangelo preferred. Callum told her that once, late on a Thursday, 3 bourbons deep into quarterly projections. She'd replied that Michelangelo died broke. He'd laughed. The real one, not the boardroom version. She knows the choreography by heart. 2 espresso shots, pulled at exactly 200 degrees, 45-second extraction, no sugar. A film of crema, the color of burnt sienna. While the machine hisses, she slips behind his desk. His laptop wakes at her touch. No password between them, not anymore. He'd given her access 18 months ago, when trust became efficiency, and efficiency became intimacy. She photographs his handwritten notes. In the margin, Raine knows about Melbourne delay. How? Her thumb hovers over the shutter. 3 seconds. 4. She takes the photo, sends it, deletes the evidence, exhales. Callum Ashford enters his kingdom at 6:32 a.m., 15 minutes early. Punctuality as morality. He doesn't startle when he sees her. He never does. You're earlier than usual? Traffic was light. The lie is smooth, practiced. The truth, she needed extra time to access his files, stays buried beneath her smile. She sets the espresso on his desk, not on a coaster. He hates coasters, calls them paranoid doilies. Another detail she's catalogued. Another intimacy, weaponized. He drinks without hesitation, trust, warm and bitter on his tongue. Desmond Raine will be in the room today, Callum says. His voice is casual, but she hears the tightness beneath. Elena thinks he's orchestrating a board coup. Nadia's pulse ticks up. She keeps her face museum still. Do you think she's right? Callum meets her eyes. For 3 seconds, the world is only this: his exhaustion, her attention, the dawn light making everything look like forgiveness. I think Raine has better intel than he should. Someone's feeding him our plays before we make them. She doesn't flinch, doesn't look away. You'll catch them, she says, and she believes it. Believes he'll catch everyone, but her. He smiles, small, tired, genuine. You have more faith in me than I do. She wants to say something true. Wants to confess that 6 months ago she tried to write an apology and couldn't find words that didn't sound like excuses. Wants to tell him that when he laughs at his own bad puns, she forgets she's supposed to be useful. Forgets she's a weapon someone else loaded and aimed. Instead, she asks about the Melbourne data. Hold it back, he says. If Raine knows about the delay, I want to see how he plays it. But Raine already knows, because she told him. She turns to leave. Nadia. She stops, doesn't turn around. If she turns around, he'll see something she can't afford to show. Thank you, he says, for showing up. Her hand tightens on the doorframe. 6:47. Same as always. She leaves before he can say anything else, before she can say anything else. Alone in his office, Callum opens his laptop, pulls up his mother's scanned letters, the ones he rereads when legacy feels like drowning. Callum, you have to trust people to build anything worth keeping. But trust wisely. The world is full of beautiful liars. He closes the file, pulls up the board agenda. Raine's name appears 14 times across 6 line items. Somewhere in this city, someone is selling him out. In the corridor, Nadia leans against the wall. A text from an unknown number. Morning update? She types, Melbourne delay confirmed. He's hiding it from the board. Raine will have leverage by noon. Send. Delete. She hates herself. Then she goes back to work. The servers hum in B-flat minor. Marcus Hale has worked corporate security long enough to find the sound soothing. Proof that systems are running, that order persists. He's reviewing routine audit logs when the anomaly surfaces. A draft email, 6 months old, sitting in Nadia Cole's server allocation. Unsent. No recipient. Subject line, I'm sorry. Body, empty. Marcus pulls the metadata. Creation timestamp, 2:47 a.m. on a Saturday in late March. After hours. Alone. The digital fingerprint of crisis. He cross-references her access logs with external communications. Finds a pattern. Encrypted emails, routed through a VPN, sent within hours of accessing sensitive files. The encryption is military-grade, expensive. He traces the shell company receiving them. Raine Capital Ventures. 8:32 p.m. Callum's office. The board meeting had been a controlled massacre. Raine's proxy had smiled through every objection. The restructuring vote failed, 7-4. Now, Callum and Nadia sit alone. City lights against darkness, single desk lamp. Everything else, shadow. The intimacy of late nights, when formality erodes and truth gets closer. Ellison knew about the Melbourne delay, Callum says, voice flat, exhausted. Nadia keeps her voice even. Could be coincidence? Not the FCC approval delay. That's internal. 6 people knew. He pauses. Board leadership, and you. Her pulse spikes. She forces herself to meet his eyes. You think someone on the board is leaking? He exhales. Elena's been with us since my mother started this company. I can't believe she'd... But someone's talking. He doesn't suspect her. Not yet. The dramatic irony tightens another notch. She sets the tablet aside. A calculated risk. What did your mother do when she didn't know who to trust? His face softens. She said, trust isn't about certainty. It's about deciding who you'd rather be wrong about. He looks at Nadia, really looks. You're the only person in this building I don't have to perform for. You know that, right? The worst thing he could say. The most true thing he could say. Nadia's throat tightens. The truth comes out small, fractured. You shouldn't trust me that much. He smiles, tired, genuine. You take my coffee at 6:47 every morning. You've seen me cry over my mother's letters. You laugh at my terrible puns. If I can't trust you, the whole experiment fails. She looks away. The only defense she has left. His trust is the knife she's holding to his throat. 11:19 p.m. The desk is a war room now, documents scattered, coffee cups forming a timeline of wakefulness. They've built a profile of the leak. Callum's narrowed it to 4 possibilities. 3 senior board members, 1 external consultant. Nadia is not on the list. I'll have Marcus run a security sweep tomorrow, Callum says. Marcus, the security chief who misses nothing, who probably already knows. Callum walks to the window. Can I ask you something personal? Why do you stay? You could work anywhere, make twice what I pay you, but you show up at 6:47, stay until midnight, and you never ask for anything. She could say it's the paycheck, could say anything except the truth. Because you're the only person who's ever made me feel like I'm more than useful. He turns, looks at her. Something shifts in the air between them. Nadia. Her phone buzzes. The moment shatters. Text from unknown number. Did he buy the board theory? Time to escalate. Raine. I'm sorry, I have to. Family thing, time zones. Of course, go. And Nadia, thank you. Gratitude as the cruelest payment. Elevator descending, 11:34 p.m. She reads Raine's full message. I need the contingency files by Friday. Your family's visa renewals are processing. Don't make me pause them. She types back. Send. Delete. She barely recognizes herself. On the subway platform, waiting for the Q train, she opens a new draft email. Types, I'm sorry. Her thumb hovers over the recipient field. Hovers. The train arrives. She saves it as a draft. Again. Doesn't send. Can't send. Won't send. The train swallows her into the dark. 68 floors above, Callum reads his mother's letter again. The one about beautiful liars. He doesn't know he's already drowning. Desmond Raine's office looks like a TED Talk set designer's fever dream. Reclaimed wood, Herman Miller chairs, a wall of Edison bulbs spelling out "Adapt or Die" in cursive neon. Performative innovation, masking old-fashioned predation. He sits behind a desk made from a Boeing 747 wing, reading Nadia's latest report. His glasses are Italian, his watch is Swiss. His smile is American. All teeth, no warmth. Melbourne delay confirmed. FCC approval stalled minimum 8 months. Simon, that's the kill shot. Board will force liquidation before Q2. No, liquidation is loud, messy. I don't want the corpse. I want the kingdom. He opens an old file. Scanned newspaper clipping, 23 years old. Young Evelyn Ashford shaking hands with investors. In the background, barely visible, a younger Desmond Raine being escorted out by security. She called my pitch rapacious short-termism, said I lacked the moral imagination to build anything lasting. He closes the file. Her son is about to learn that vision doesn't beat leverage. The coal woman. How much longer do we need her? Until Callum's bleeding out and desperate, then we cut her loose. Actually, no. We let Callum find out she was ours. Let him fire her publicly. Maximum humiliation. For both of them. 2:19 p.m. Ashford Tower. Nadia's desk. Her phone lights up. Time to escalate. I need the contingency files. The contingency files. She knows exactly what those are. Callum keeps them password protected, marked EOY personal. 2 months ago she'd accessed them, just to see. What she found? Letters from his mother, written during chemotherapy. Voice memos he'd recorded after her funeral. Him talking to her ghost, sometimes just saying, I miss you, into the void. A document titled Fears, Private. His anxieties, failing her legacy, dying alone in a successful empire. Everything he's never shown anyone. She types, those are personal, not strategic. Raine's response is immediate. Everything is strategic. I need leverage that makes him irrational. His mother's ghost will do nicely. Thursday, end of day. Her hands go cold. Another text. Your mother called the embassy yesterday asking about visa timeline. Sweet woman. I'd hate for her to wait another 3 years. Family as hostage. Care as extortion. 4:48 p.m. Raine on a call with a Wall Street Journal editor. I'm hearing rumors that Ashford Telecom may have misrepresented their 5G infrastructure timeline to investors. That's serious, Desmond. You have documentation? I have a pattern, and sources close to the C-suite. I'll have internal memos by end of week. If this checks out, we'd run it Monday morning, front page. The exposé drops Monday. Stock craters Tuesday. By Wednesday, Raine offers the rescue package. And then, he leaks that Callum's trusted assistant was feeding intel the whole time. Financial destruction plus emotional annihilation. 11:34 p.m. Nadia's apartment, Astoria, Queens. 4th floor walk-up, IKEA minimal. The New York that doesn't make postcards. She sits on her bed, laptop open, staring at Callum's private server. One password away. On her phone, a photo. Her mother. Her 2 younger sisters, standing in front of their apartment in Tbilisi. They're smiling. She hasn't seen them in 3 years. A text from her mother. The embassy said our interview is scheduled, December 10th. We're so close, Nadia. I'm so proud of you. Pride as poison. She types the password. The folder opens. The files are there. Mother's letters, voice memos, private fears. She's crying, silently. She selects all, begins the download. While the progress bar crawls, she opens a new draft email, types, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Download complete. She uploads the files, sends confirmation to Raine. Done. His reply, good, your family's interview is confirmed for December 10th. Don't fuck this up now. She closes the laptop, stares at her hands like they belong to someone else. She saved her family by selling the last piece of herself she respected. The radiator hisses. Outside, the city is indifferent. 68 floors above Manhattan, Callum sleeps. Unaware that his mother's voice, her final words, her private fears, her ghost, is being packaged as ammunition. The espresso will still appear at 6:47 tomorrow morning. The ritual will continue. The betrayal will compound. And somewhere in a Soho loft, Desmond Raine sleeps the sleep of men who've never doubted they deserved to win. 7:43 p.m., Thursday. Marcus Hale walks the executive corridors like a man approaching a crime scene. In his hand, a manila folder, physical, analog, unhackable. Inside, 3 years of evidence, 17 pages. He reaches Callum's door. Doesn't knock. Enters. Tell me it's not the Melbourne leak. Marcus closes the door, locks it. The click is too loud. It's worse. He sets the folder on Callum's desk, doesn't open it. What is this? 3 years of financial transfers, encrypted communications, access logs. It's Nadia. The room tilts, doesn't tilt. Everything is exactly the same and completely shattered. Nadia Cole has been employed by Raine Capital since before she applied to work here. She's been feeding Desmond Raine every strategic move we've made for 37 months. You're sure? Not a question, a plea. I'm sure. He opens the folder. Her employment contract with Raine, dated 4 months before she interviewed with Ashford. Financial transfers, 6 figures annually. Encrypted emails correlating with every major leak. Each line is a memory recontextualizing in real time. The way she knew his schedule before he did. The questions that felt like care but were intelligence gathering. The late nights she stayed, always volunteering, always observing. Trust as a building collapsing in slow motion. The Singapore expansion. She accessed your private correspondence 14 times that week. Within hours, Raine made moves that cost us the deal. Callum remembers. Remembers thinking he couldn't do this without her. He was right. He couldn't. That was the trap. The unsent email, 6 months ago. I'm sorry. She tried to quit, or confess. She wrote it at 2:47 a.m., never sent it, kept working. Why didn't she send it? Maybe she couldn't afford to. Raine's been sponsoring her family's visa applications. If she stopped delivering, he'd pull the sponsorship. 2.5. She's not just a villain. She's trapped. How long have you known? 4 days. 4 days. She's been here every morning, 6:47, making coffee. I told her... He stops. Can't finish. I can have her removed from the building tonight. Security escort. We notify the board tomorrow, cauterize the wound. No. No? Callum stands, walks to the window. 8 million people below, living separate lives. He presses his palm against the glass. It's cold. I'll handle it. I need to look at her and ask her why. She'll lie. Maybe. Or maybe she'll tell me the truth, and I'll finally know which version of her was real. He picks up the folder, holds it like something contaminated. 3 years. Every morning, every late night, every... He steadies it. I need to hear it from her. He's choosing pain over ignorance, honesty over efficiency. He's his mother's son. When? Tomorrow morning, 6:47. The time is deliberate. When she brings the coffee. For what it's worth, I've watched her. She's good at this. But the unsent email, the delays in recent reports, I don't think she's just good at lying. I think she's bad at living with it. That doesn't change what she did. No, but it might change why. He leaves. The lock clicks. Callum alone. Folder on his desk. City beyond. He opens his desk drawer, pulls out his mother's letters, the real ones, the physical copies Nadia downloaded without knowing he keeps them here. Finds the one he needs, dated 2 weeks before she died. Callum, the world is full of beautiful liars. The hard part isn't spotting them. It's deciding whether the beauty was real, even if the truth wasn't. If you let betrayal make you cruel, they've taken more than they stole. Don't let them take your capacity for trust. That's the only thing that can't be rebuilt with money. He folds the letter, returns it to the drawer, opens his laptop, pulls up security footage from this morning, 6:47 timestamp. Watches Nadia enter, watches her set down the espresso, watches her hand tremble. Rewinds, watches again. The evidence was always there. He chose not to see it. Tomorrow morning, 6:47, she'll arrive. She'll make the coffee. She'll set it on his desk. And this time, he won't drink. This time, he'll ask. And she'll have to answer. A text from Nadia sent 20 minutes ago. Left revised Q4 projections on your desk. Also, thank you for trusting me with the Melbourne strategy. I know it wasn't easy. See you at 6:47. N. Even her gratitude is evidence. Even her punctuality is weaponized. Even her sign-off, that casual N, is a lie he wanted to believe. He types a response, deletes it, types again. See you then. Send. Not angry yet, not hardened yet. Just heartbroken in that specific way of realizing the person who knew you best was paid to betray you. Outside, the city glitters. Inside, everything is ending. 6:47 a.m., Friday morning. The doors open. Nadia steps into the corridor. She's carrying 2 espresso cups this morning, one for him, one for herself. Maybe today they could drink coffee together. Maybe she could find a way to say something true. Her heels on marble, motion sensor lights blooming. Same path, same ritual, but everything is different now. She reaches his office door. It's slightly ajar. Unusual. She enters. Callum sits at his desk, backlit by dawn, face half in shadow. He doesn't look up. 6:47. Same as always. She sets down the espresso. Her hand trembles. He doesn't reach for the cup. She notices the folder, notices his posture, notices the way he's not meeting her eyes. Callum? Finally, he looks up. How long, Nadia? She freezes. How long what? He slides the folder across the desk. How long have you been working for Desmond Raine? Every lie she's ever told, collapsing. The espresso steams between them, ignored. Outside, the city wakes, oblivious, relentless. Inside this room, 3 years of intimacy detonate in slow motion. Callum, The sun crests the horizon, floods the room with unforgiving gold. The ritual is shattered. The truth is exposed. Now they must decide. Destroy each other or survive Raine together. Trust is ash. The board is circling. The exposé drops in 72 hours, and the only person who can help Callum is the one who betrayed him. She doesn't ask permission. Opens the folder. Her employment contract with Raine. Page 1, her signature, 4 months before she ever met Callum. She turns pages. Bank transfers, encrypted email logs, surveillance photos. Every lie she's ever told, indexed and annotated. She closes the folder, sets it down with care, like it might detonate. Callum hasn't moved. Stands by the window, arms crossed. Say something. What do you want me to say? The truth, for once. She nods, swallows. I've been working for Desmond Raine since before I applied here. He paid me to get close to you, to report everything. Board meetings, strategy sessions, private conversations. Everything. Why? My family? Economic collapse back home? Raine offered to sponsor their visas, cover legal fees. All I had to do was you. 3 years. 3 years. Every morning, every late night, Was any of it real? She stands, doesn't move toward him. 6 months ago, I tried to stop. I wrote an apology email at 2 in the morning, sat there for an hour trying to explain. Couldn't find words that didn't sound like excuses. I didn't send it because I didn't think you'd believe me, that the coffee was real, that laughing at your terrible puns was real, that staying late because I wanted to, not because Raine told me to. That was real. Do you work for him now? I did yesterday. Do you now? I don't know. Get out. She nods, turns toward the door, her hand on the handle, stops. The coffee was real, Callum. Every morning at 6:47. That was the only true thing I gave you. I'm sorry. She opens the door. It clicks shut. 2 seconds of stillness. Then, he grabs the espresso cup, still warm, still full, and hurls it against the wall. Porcelain exploding. Brown liquid streaking down white marble. Like a wound. The sound echoes. Then silence. The stain catches the light, dark against white. Permanent. He sinks into his chair, puts his head in his hands. Devastation without theatrics. The kind of pain that's too big for sound. If someone you loved had betrayed you for a reason that broke your heart, would the reason make it hurt less or more? The brown stain runs down the wall in rivulets. The coffee ritual, finally dead. 11:47 a.m. Rain capital. Nadia's phone had buzzed 30 seconds after she left Ashford Tower. My office, noon, don't be late. No signature needed. She knew. The elevator opens directly into Raine's loft. Exposed brick, reclaimed wood. Edison bulbs spelling adapt or die, unlit in daylight, somehow more menacing dormant. Desmond Raine sits behind his Boeing wing desk, doesn't look up. Sit. She sits, hands folded, waiting for the blade. He sets the tablet down, looks at her. His expression isn't angry. That would be easier. It's satisfied. You've had an eventful morning. Callum's security chief compiled quite the dossier. You were exposed 4 days ago, confronted this morning. How'd he take it? You've been watching. I've been prepared. Surveillance on Ashford's security network. I knew the day Hale flagged your activity. Raine has been 3 steps ahead the entire time. And he did exactly what his mother would have done. Confronted you personally. Asked for truth instead of lawyers. Evelyn Ashford's son. Principled to the point of stupidity. You wanted me to get caught. I wanted you exposed. There's a difference. Caught implies an ending. Exposed means you're now the perfect double agent. She shakes her head. He won't trust me. Exactly. He'll suspect everything you say. Which means when I execute phase 2, he'll ignore the real threat because he's too busy watching you. Phase 2. Raine slides a file across the desk. Wall Street Journal, draft article. Headline, Ashford Telecom CEO allegedly concealed infrastructure delays, misled investors. Desmond, you said this was about leverage, market positioning. It is. Leverage is destruction, Nadia. Just curated. This drops Monday morning. Front page. Stock craters. Emergency board meeting Tuesday. By Wednesday, I present a rescue acquisition. The board accepts. Within 18 months, I dismantle the company, sell the assets. You get the company, and Callum loses everything his mother built. I get vindication. 23 years ago, Evelyn Ashford rejected my partnership proposal, called my vision rapacious short-termism, had security escort me out. The trade press laughed. Investors remembered. I built $8 billion companies to prove her wrong. She never acknowledged it, never apologized. So yes, I'm going to take her legacy apart, brick by brick. And her son will sign the paperwork, understanding exactly what his mother's principles cost him. The cruelty is breathtaking in its pettiness and scale. What do you need from me? Nothing. You've already delivered the contingency files. The pieces are in motion. Then why am I here? Insurance and aesthetics. He pulls an envelope from his desk, slides it across. Official embassy seal. Your family's visa approvals. Interviews scheduled December 10th. Pending final completion of services rendered. She stares at it, doesn't open it. What services? You said you don't need anything else. I need you to stay close to Callum. When the exposé drops, he'll be desperate. He might reach out. If he does, feed him hope, misdirection. Keep him focused on me while the board vote proceeds. And if he doesn't reach out? Then you've served your purpose. I release your family's paperwork. You disappear. She picks up the envelope, holds it. You were never going to let me go, were you? No. But I was going to compensate you well. That's real, by the way. I honor my contracts. You deliver, your family gets their visas. You vanish, I never contact you again. He's cruel, but transactional. His word, for what it's worth, is solid. She stands, turns to leave. Nadia! She stops, doesn't turn. The coffee ritual, the late nights, the way you looked at him when you thought no one was watching. I didn't tell you to do any of that. You fell for him on your own. That's the real knife, not the intel, the hope. She doesn't respond, walks to the elevator. As the doors close, Raine calls out, When he falls, I want him to know it was you. Again. If survival meant betraying the only person who ever saw you as more than useful, how many times could you do it before you stopped recognizing yourself? The elevator descends, city rising around her, glass walls reflecting her multiplied, and alone. 3:14 p.m., emergency boardroom, 67th floor. The board has assembled in 47 minutes, a record. That's how serious this is. Elena Voss stands at the head of the table, tablet in hand, jaw set. Charcoal Armani, pearls her ex-husband bought to apologize for his third affair. War armor. 15 minutes ago, I received a call from a Wall Street Journal senior editor. They're running an exposé Monday morning, alleging Callum knowingly concealed material information from investors. Callum sits at the opposite end, isolated. He hasn't changed clothes since this morning. There's a coffee stain on his cuff, hastily consumed. Do we have a statement prepared? We have a crisis. The exposé cites internal memos, dated communications, executive testimony. They have documentation. Desmond Raine. This is Raine. He's been building this for months. You're saying a competitor orchestrated a media hit piece. That's not a defense, Callum. That's paranoia. It's not paranoia if it's true. Raine's had access to inside information because someone's been feeding him our playbook. Who? Nadia Cole. The name detonates. Chaos. Elena raises her hand. Silence falls. Explain. She's been employed by Raine Capital for 3 years, reporting strategy, board decisions, private conversations. Everything. I was informed this morning. She's been removed from access. And you waited 6 hours to tell us, while a media bomb is ticking? Your compromised judgment just handed this company to Desmond Raine on a silver platter. Here's what happens now. You fire Nadia Cole publicly, today. Issue a statement. We cauterize the wound before the exposé drops. No. Excuse me? I'm not burning her publicly without due process. If we go loud now, Raine uses our accusation to discredit anything we say about his manipulation. So your solution is what? Keep the spy on payroll? Send her a fruit basket? My solution is to work with her to bury him. You want to trust the woman who sold us out for 3 years to suddenly become an ally? I want to use the only person who knows Raine's complete strategy. She has access. She knows his funding structure, his timeline. If we move smart, we turn her into a double agent. Feed Raine exactly what we want him to believe while we dismantle his acquisition play. Elena stands, walks to Callum's end, looks him in the eye. Two people who've known each other 20 years. Respect eroding in real time. Your mother once told me the hardest part of leadership is knowing when principle becomes self-destruction. This is that moment, Callum. You're protecting this woman because you feel betrayed, and you want to believe the betrayal meant something. But it didn't. She was paid. You were the job. You're wrong. Am I? Because from where I'm sitting, you're about to sacrifice this company, 15,000 jobs, and your mother's legacy. Because you can't accept that someone played you. The board will vote. Motion to remove Callum Ashford as CEO effective immediately. I'll second. But I'm tabling the vote. She looks at Callum. You have 48 hours. Stop the exposé, prove Raine's manipulation, or step aside. Ticking clock. 48 hours to save everything. 48 hours. He walks toward the door, opens it, stops. Nadia, standing in the hallway, like a ghost. She's been waiting. Changed clothes, jeans, sweater, the civilian version of herself. No armor. Their eyes meet. 3 seconds. The entire board watching through the glass wall. She mouths, "We need to talk." Elena, watching from inside, murmurs to the board member beside her, "He's going to sacrifice everything for her. I've seen this before. It never ends well." When principle and survival collide, is choosing the person over the institution courage, or just another way of giving up? Callum steps through the door, into the hallway. The glass wall reflects both of them, distorted, overlapping. The door closes behind him. Inside, the board descends into argument. Outside, silence. 4:02 p.m. Callum's office, immediately after the board meeting. Neither sits. They stand 10 feet apart, the desk between them like a demilitarized zone. Fragile ceasefire. Nadia speaks first. "I went to see Raine." "I know. He texted you 30 seconds after you left. I had Marcus monitor your phone." She nods, not surprised. "Then you know what he's planning. Wall Street Journal exposé, Monday morning, front page." "I know. What I don't know is why you're here." "You delivered the contingency files yesterday. Raine has everything he needs. Your family's visas are approved. You could disappear tonight and never look back." Her hands grip the chair, knuckles white. "Because I'm tired."
He turns, looks at her.
Tired?
Of being useful. Of being the competent one, the reliable one, the one who anticipates needs and solves problems and makes everything run smoothly while selling you out behind your back. 3 years, Callum. 3 years I've been two people. And I'm so tired I can't remember which one is real anymore.
The mask fully dropped. This is raw exhaustion, not strategy. He walks back to his desk, sits on the edge, arms crossed. "Tell me how it started." She exhales, sits. The position they've occupied 1,000 times, her briefing him listening. But everything inverted now. 2019, Georgia. Economic collapse, currency devalued overnight. My father's pharmacy went under. 6 months later, he had a stroke. Medical debt. I was working in Tbilisi, mid-level analyst.
Desmond Raine came through on a due diligence tour. He was impressive, asked smart questions, saw 3 moves ahead. At the end of the week, he offered me a job. New York office, 6-figure salary, visa sponsorship. And you said yes. I said yes. My family was drowning. My mother was selling furniture to pay for my father's medication. My sisters dropped out of university. I said yes before I even asked what the job was. Survival economics as moral trap. 2 weeks later, Raine brought me to New York, explained the actual position. He wanted someone inside Ashford Telecom, someone smart, competent, forgettable. An executive assistant. I'd report everything: board dynamics, strategic priorities, private vulnerabilities. And you didn't walk away. Not an accusation, a question. I couldn't. He had my family's visa applications already in process, had paid the lawyer fees, the embassy costs, said if I refused, he'd cancel everything and blacklist me from every telecom firm on the eastern seaboard. The coercion was economic and comprehensive. She was trapped before she started. So you applied to work for me. So I applied to work for me. The rain fills the silence. Tears she's been holding since this morning finally fall. Confessing, I thought it would be easy. You were a billionaire, born into money. I thought you'd be like every other rich man I'd ever met, entitled, oblivious, too arrogant to notice the help. And then you weren't. This moment reframes everything. Her betrayal becomes tragic instead of mercenary. When did it change? She wipes her eyes, laughs bitterly. 3 weeks in, you made a terrible pun about spectrum allocation, something about bandwidth and relationships. It was awful. I laughed. For real. For the first time in 2 years. And you looked so surprised that someone thought you were funny. Not because you were the CEO. Just because. I went home that night and couldn't sleep. Kept thinking, this is a person, not a target, not a billionaire. A person who tells bad jokes and reads his dead mother's letters when he's scared and needs people to pretend he's perfect because he's terrified of being his father. She knows him, really knows him, in ways he never intended. The apology email, 6 months ago. What changed that night? Nadia closes her eyes. You told me about your mother's cancer. How she kept working through chemo because she didn't want the board to think she was weak. How she made you promise to protect what she built, even if it cost you everything. She opens her eyes, looks at him. And I realized I wasn't spying on a billionaire. I was betraying a person. Someone who trusted me, who I was starting to care about. I wrote the apology, sat there for an hour. Couldn't find words that didn't sound like excuses for the inexcusable. So I saved it as a draft and told myself I'd send it when I found the right words. You never did. No, because there are no right words. She stands, walks to the window beside him. Not close, but closer. And because Raine had my family's visas, every time I thought about confessing, I'd get a photo from my mother, my sisters at a cafe, my father walking again. All of it possible because I was doing my job. Why tell me now? Raine's plan is in motion. The exposé drops Monday. You could have just disappeared. She turns to him. Because this morning, when you asked, do you work for him now? And I said, I don't know. I meant it. For 3 years, I've known exactly who I was working for. Today, for the first time, I don't. I came back because Raine's going to destroy you. Not just the company. You. He wants you to know I was the knife. He wants you to die knowing the only person who saw you without your armor was paid to do it. And I can't let him take that from you. Even if you hate me, even if you never forgive me. I can't let him win by making every real moment we had feel like a lie. This is the turn. She's not asking for forgiveness. She's offering alliance. Callum stands, faces her fully. I don't forgive you. She nods, expected this. But I believe you. She looks up, surprised. And I don't care about your reasons. I care if you'll help me stop him. What do you need? Raine's acquisition offer will be financially unstable, leveraged to the hilt. If we can prove his funding is junk bonds and shell companies, the board won't approve the sale. You need his internal financial records. Can you get them? She considers. He thinks I'm still his. He gave me server access this afternoon. I could go back, clone his files. He'll know it's a trap. Only if I fail. I won't fail. Storm passes, light breaking through clouds, cold and clean. Callum studies her face. Why 6 months ago? I've told you about my mother dozens of times. What was different that night? Her voice is barely audible. You said, I don't know what I'd do without you. You were talking about the Singapore deal, but the way you said it, I realized I didn't know what I'd do without you either. And that terrified me, because you can't love someone you're betraying. It turns you into something you don't recognize. Can you love someone while destroying them? Or does the destruction prove the love was never real? Callum turns away, looks out at the city, emerging from rain. This doesn't mean I trust you. I know. It means I understand you, and I'm willing to use that. I know. If you betray me again, I will make sure everyone knows. Your family, Raine, the board. I will burn every bridge you have. Understood. Alliance without trust. Partnership without forgiveness. Callum opens a file on his laptop, begins drafting. Nadia moves to look over his shoulder. The old choreography, weighted differently now. Title on screen, In Defense of Second Chances. First line, trust, once broken, cannot be restored to its original form, but it can be rebuilt into something stronger if both parties choose honesty over comfort. Rain-streaked windows clearing, city lights beginning to glow as dusk approaches, both of them bent over the laptop, working. 6:47 p.m., Friday evening. The office has become a war room. Desk cleared, financial documents everywhere, 3 laptops open, coffee cups multiplying. Marcus Hale stands by the window, arms crossed, radiating professional skepticism. He's been silent for 20 minutes, watching Callum and Nadia work side by side. Like the last 3 years never fractured. Nadia's fingers move across the keyboard, pulling up everything she knows about Raine Capital from memory. Shell companies, funding sources, acquisition patterns. Here, Raine Capital's last 4 acquisitions, pattern analysis. They're all leveraged buyouts, minimal liquid capital, maximum debt loading. Exactly. Raine doesn't use his own money. He uses investor commitments and junk bonds. Loads the acquired company with debt, extracts value, then flips it or bankrupts it strategically. If his acquisition offer follows the same pattern, where's the vulnerability? The investor commitments. They're conditional. If the target company's stock stabilizes, or if negative press surfaces about Raine's financial position, investors can withdraw. The whole structure collapses. The strategy crystallizes.
They need to expose Raine's instability before Monday. So we need his internal financial records, proof that his rescue offer is built on sand. And we need it before the Wall Street Journal story drops Monday morning. Once your stock craters, the board will panic. Nadia closes her laptop.
I can get them.
Both men look at her.
Raine gave me server access this afternoon. He thinks I'm uploading final intelligence. If I go back tomorrow, Saturday, when his office is quiet, I can clone his financial database.
He'll have security, digital and physical. The moment you access restricted files, alarms trigger.
Not if I use the admin credentials he gave me. They're flagged as executive access, no alerts.
And when his IT team audits the logs Monday morning and sees you downloaded his entire financial structure, what's your play then? She's thought this through.
By Monday morning, you'll have already distributed the files to the SEC, the board, and strategic media contacts. Raine can know I took them. It won't matter. The damage will be done.
Scorched earth. She's burning her last bridge to Raine. You understand what this means? Once you do this, Raine will know you switched sides. Your family's visas are approved pending completion of services. He'll cancel them the second he realizes I'm working against him.
I know.
She's choosing Callum over her family's safety. The reversal is complete. You're asking her to commit corporate espionage against her former employer, torch her family's immigration status, and trust that we'll protect her when Raine retaliates? Yes. And you're trusting that she won't take the files and sell them to the highest bidder. Callum doesn't look at Marcus, looks at Nadia. Yes. This is insane. It's the only play we have. He pulls up a legal document. Nadia, I'm drafting an employment contract, effective immediately. Executive Consultant, Ashford Telecom. If Raine cancels your family's visa sponsorship, we'll transfer it to Ashford. Full legal support. She wasn't expecting this. You're hiring me? I'm making sure you're not alone when this blows up. Callum. She betrayed you for 3 years.
I know.
She sold your mother's private letters to a man who wants to destroy her legacy. I know. I also know she came back when she didn't have to. I know she's about to lose everything to help us. And I know that my mother built this company on the principle that people deserve second chances if they're willing to pay the cost. You sound like her. Good. Because if we're going to survive Raine, we need to be better than him. That means keeping our word when it's expensive. Marcus nods once, pulls out his phone. I'll call our attorneys. They'll need Nadia's family documentation.
Thank you.
Don't thank me. Just don't make him regret this. 9:33 p.m. They've built the complete counterplay. Nadia will infiltrate Raine Capital tomorrow. 2 p.m. Saturday, skeleton crew. Clone the financial records. Upload to Marcus's encrypted server. By Sunday morning, forensic accountants analyzing. By Sunday night, counter-narrative ready. Monday morning, when the exposé drops, they release Raine's financial instability simultaneously. Turn his attack into a double-edged sword. Nadia stands. I should go. I need to prep for tomorrow. Callum walks her to the door. She stops, turns back.
Callum, if this goes wrong, if I can't get the files, or if Raine's waiting for me, it won't. But if it does, make sure the board knows I acted alone. Protect yourself.
She's already written the script where she takes the fall. We succeed together or fail together. That's the deal. 6:47 tomorrow morning. Coffee?
I don't work here anymore.
You do as of 4 hours ago. Employment contract countersigned by the board chair. Elena moved fast. Elena's protecting Callum by formalizing Nadia's role. Greek chorus becoming ally. Nadia's eyes well up. She blinks it away. Then yes. 6:47. Coffee. I'll bring it this time. You don't know how I take it. 2 shots, 45-second extraction, no sugar. Film of crema the color of burnt sienna. You made it for me 1,000 times. I paid attention.
3.5. The intimacy of being known. He's been watching her as carefully as she watched him. Mutual surveillance as care. She nods, doesn't trust her voice. Leaves. Scene shift. Just Callum and Marcus. 9:41 p.m. Just Callum and Marcus. Marcus setting down document. You trust her? Callum at window. Callum returns to the window. No. But you believe her? Yes, there's a difference. Your mother would have done the same thing. I know. That doesn't mean it's not dangerous. I know that too. He opens a new document. Types. In defense of second chances. Board memo. Draft. Trust, once broken, cannot be restored to its original form. But it can be rebuilt into something stronger if both parties choose honesty over comfort. Nadia Cole betrayed this company for 3 years. She also returned when she had every reason to run. Tomorrow, she risks everything to help us survive. I'm choosing to measure her by her next decision, not her last 1,000. If that's compromised judgment, so be it. But I'd rather lose believing in redemption than win believing in nothing. You're going to send that to the board? If this works, I won't need to. If it fails, it won't matter. And if she betrays you again? Then I'll know I was wrong about people, and that will hurt worse than losing the company. Vulnerability as strength. He's willing to be wrong if it means staying human. Marcus moves to leave, stops at the door. For what it's worth, I've been doing security for 20 years. I've seen every kind of operative. The good ones don't come back after extraction. They don't volunteer for suicide missions. They don't cry when you offer them a second chance. She's either the best actress I've ever seen, or she's exactly what she says she is. Someone who made a terrible choice and is trying to unmake it. Which do you think she is? I think she's terrified. And people who are terrified either run or fight. She's choosing to fight. That tells me something. He leaves. When someone risks everything to prove they've changed, are you measuring their character or testing your own capacity for hope? Callum, alone. War room. Documents everywhere. City glittering beyond the glass. He pulls out his phone, hesitates, types a message. Thank you for coming back. C. Send. 30 seconds. Phone buzzes. Thank you for letting me. Nen. Something eases in his expression. Not forgiveness. Possibility. He sets the phone down, returns to the laptop, pulls up Raine Capital's public financial filings, starts cross-referencing. The hunt has begun. Outside, the city sleeps. Inside, 3 people are preparing for war. Saturday, 2:07 p.m. Raine Capital, Soho. Nadia enters through the main lobby. Security guard barely looks up. She's dressed business casual, tablet under her arm, the costume of weekend work. Server maintenance. He waves her through. The elevator ride is 43 seconds. She counts them. Controlled terror, the kind that sharpens focus. 2:11 p.m., executive floor. Skeleton crew.
Two analysts in the bullpen, headphones on, oblivious. Raine's corner office dark, empty. She moves to the server room. Keycard, biometric scan. Beep, lock disengaging. The door opens. Server room bathed in blue LED strips. Racks of equipment humming in climate-controlled cold. The digital heart of Raine's empire. She closes the door, pulls out her laptop, connects to the secure terminal. Admin credentials? Accepted. She's in. The file structure appears. Acquisitions, financial structures, investor commitments. She finds it. Ashford Acquisition Model Huffidential. Inside, the complete blueprint. Junk bonds, offshore shells, investor escape clauses. The smoking gun. She begins the clone. Progress bar, 2%. 5. 11. While it downloads, she photographs documents, investor agreements, leveraged debt schedules, the entire architecture of Raine's house of cards. 23%. 31. 44. Text from Callum. Status? She types one-handed. Downloading. 70%. 10 more. Minutes. His reply? Stay safe. 74. 81. 2:34 p.m. Download at 89%. She freezes. Through the glass panel, one of the analysts walking to the break room doesn't glance her way, passes. She exhales. 93. 97. 100%. Download complete. Files secured. Encrypted. Ready. She disconnects, erases access logs, packs her laptop, turns to leave. The door opens. Desmond Raine, standing in the doorway. Desmond, I didn't know you'd be here. I was just uploading the final intelligence report. No, you weren't. He steps inside. The door closes. You were cloning my financial records, Ashford Acquisition Model, investor commitments, the entire structure. She doesn't deny. Can't. How long have you known? That you'd flip? Since yesterday. The moment you left my office after I gave you the visa envelope. You looked at me differently, not like an asset, like someone calculating escape velocity. I've seen that look before, usually right before someone does something brave and stupid. So, why let me in today? Because I wanted you to succeed. You have the files, good. They're accurate, by the way. My acquisition offer is leveraged to the hilt. Callum's forensic accountants will have a field day. You're letting me take them. I'm helping you take them. Here's what happens next. You send those files to Marcus Hale. He distributes them to the SEC, the board, strategic media. Monday morning, when my Wall Street Journal expose drops, Callum simultaneously releases my financial instability. The narratives collide. Market chaos, stock volatility, regulatory scrutiny. And in that chaos, the board panics. They bring in a third party, a white knight. My private equity partner. Quiet firm, impeccable reputation, already positioned. They'll acquire Ashford at a discount. And I'll own 30% through shell structures your downloaded files won't reveal, because they're in a separate server you didn't access. The heist was part of his plan all along. You wanted me to steal the files. I needed Callum to think he had a counter-move. Needed him to believe he could outsmart me with information you provided. That way, when it all collapses anyway, he'll blame himself for trusting you. Again. That's the real play, Nadia, not the company, the man. I want Callum Ashford to lose his mother's legacy, knowing that the person he chose to believe in, twice, was the instrument of his destruction. The first betrayal was business.
You were my asset, doing your job. But this is personal. Because you came back. You chose him over your family's safety. And he believed you, hired you, protected you, started rebuilding trust. His phone rings. He puts it on speaker. Desmond Raine. Desmond, it's Paulson. We're moving the Ashford story up, running it tomorrow morning instead of Monday. Tomorrow? That's fast. Editorial decision. We got corroboration from a second source. Legal cleared us to publish. Online at 6 a.m., print by 8. Understood, thank you. 6 a.m. tomorrow. That gives Callum about 16 hours to prepare his counter-narrative with your stolen files. Should be interesting. You moved the story up. I suggested they might want to beat the Monday news cycle. Paulson made the call. He walks to the door, opens it. And Nadia, the coffee ritual, the late nights, the way you looked at him during strategy sessions. I didn't tell you to do any of that. I told you to gather intelligence. But you fell for him on your own. That's the real knife. Not the intel you stole from me, not the files you're stealing now. The hope. The belief that maybe something real grew in the middle of the lie. When Callum loses everything tomorrow, I want him to remember that the person he forgave, the person he defended to his board, chose to help him in a way that guaranteed his destruction. Even if you run to him right now and confess this conversation, it doesn't matter. The files are real. His countermove is logical. He'll use them because it's his only play. And I'll win anyway. Go, save him. I'm counting on it. She walks past him, into the corridor, down to the elevator. The fluorescence too bright, everything overexposed. 2:51 p.m., street level. She exits the building, walking fast but not running. Around the corner, then she brakes. She pulls out her phone, calls Callum. 2 rings. Nadia, did you get them? We're out of time. What happened? Raine was there. He knew. He let me take the files. He wanted me to take them. It's a trap, Callum. Whatever we do with this information, he's already 3 moves ahead. The Wall Street Journal story. It's not Monday anymore. It's tomorrow, 6 a.m. We have 16 hours. Send me the files. Callum, you're not listening. He wants us to use them. He has a third-party buyer ready. Nadia, send me the files. She stops walking. Even if it's a trap? Especially if it's a trap. Because the files are still real. The information is still true. And I'd rather fight him with truth than surrender with silence. She pulls out her laptop, balances it on a street planter, opens the encrypted upload portal. Uploading now. She adds a text message. This is everything. If it's not enough, I'm sorry. Upload complete. His reply, immediate. It's enough. Come back. Despite the trap, he still wants her. If the only way to save someone is by walking deeper into the trap that's meant to destroy you both, is that love or just a different kind of betrayal? She closes the laptop, stands on the corner, shaking. Raine was right about one thing. She did fall for Callum on her own. The coffee wasn't a mission parameter. The late nights weren't in her contract. The way her chest tightened when he smiled at his own terrible jokes. That wasn't tradecraft. That was real. And Raine turned the only real thing she had into the weapon that might destroy them both. She starts walking toward the subway, toward Ashford Tower, toward whatever happens next. Her phone buzzes. Text from Raine, sent 5 minutes ago. By the way, your family's visa interviews are still scheduled for December 10th. I keep my promises. Deliver Callum's destruction and they'll be approved. That offer stands. She deletes the message, keeps walking. The choice made.
Saturday night, 7:34 p.m. The office transformed into a war room. Every surface covered in documents, 3 laptops glowing. Marcus at one screen, Callum at another, Nadia pacing. The files she stole are a labyrinth. 63 shell companies, 14 offshore accounts, leveraged debt so complex they'd need forensic accountants to decode. They don't have forensic accountants. They have 16 hours. Marcus, steady despite exhaustion. Marcus has been cross-referencing investor commitments for 3 hours. Raine's primary funding source is a Cayman entity called Meridian Ventures. On paper, it looks clean. But Meridian's capital commitments are conditional. If Ashford's stock stabilizes above $42 within 72 hours, or if negative press surfaces about Raine's practices, investors can withdraw. The whole offer collapses. What's our stock at now? $38.50. It'll crater when the journal story hits. Probably mid-20s. The math is brutal, but clear. So we need to do 2 things simultaneously: stabilize the stock and expose Raine's financial instability. Same counter-narrative, 2 targets. How do you stabilize stock price when the Wall Street Journal just called you a liar? Callum picks up a marker, writes, "Truth, defense." We don't defend. We own it, publicly, completely. Take away the scandal by making it old news before the market even opens. You're talking about a preemptive confession. I'm talking about a press conference. Tomorrow morning, before market open, we beat Raine to the narrative. The tactical triangle reforms around the whiteboard. And say what? That you knew about the delays and hid them? That'll crater the stock worse. No, we explain the difference. Delayed versus concealed. We release the full FCC correspondence. We show I disclosed the timeline internally and delayed public announcement on legal counsel's advice. Raine will say you're splitting hairs, that you misled investors regardless. Then we make him the story instead of me. You know his operations better than anyone. What's his vulnerability? This is the test. The moment her knowledge becomes weaponized for Callum instead of against him. She walks to the board, takes the marker from him. Their fingers brush. Brief. Electric. Raine doesn't gamble. Everything is calculated. But he has one psychological blind spot. Which is? He needs to win publicly. It's not enough to acquire the company. He needs everyone to watch him do it. Needs the board to beg. Needs you to be humiliated. She's decoded the revenge obsession. That's why he structured this as a media event. If we disrupt his narrative control, make him reactive instead of proactive, he'll overplay his hand. 11:47 p.m. The room, smaller now. Pizza boxes stacked, coffee cups forming a timeline. They've drafted the press release, scheduled a dawn conference. 7:30 a.m. 90 minutes after the journal story breaks, 2 hours before market open. Nadia is writing the script. She knows what he needs to say because she knows what Raine expects him to hide. This section, where I explain your role, you don't want me to soften it? No, it needs to be accurate. The board will fact-check every word. It makes you sound like a spy? I was a spy, Callum, for 3 years. Softening it insults the people who trusted you and got burned because of me. Her self-awareness as both penance and armor. The part where I forgive you publicly will destroy your credibility with half the board, I know. Elena will vote against you. Judith will call it compromised judgment.
But it's the only move that reframes the story. From CEO hid misconduct to CEO chose transparency over self-protection. She's weaponizing narrative structure the way Raine taught her, but for redemption instead of destruction. Why are you helping me? Because 16 hours ago, you hired me when you should have fired me. Offered to transfer my family's visas when you should have let Raine cancel them. And because... She doesn't finish. Because? Because if I'm going to burn every bridge I have, I want it to be for something that matters. 3:17 a.m. The dead hour when exhaustion becomes delirium. The press conference script is done. The financial data package formatted. The SEC filing queued for 6 a.m. All the pieces in place. Now, they just have to survive until dawn. Callum stands, walks to where Nadia's silhouetted against the glass. Can I ask you something? She nods without turning. What was the worst thing you reported? In 3 years, what hurt the most to send to Raine? She closes her eyes. You really want to know? I think I need to. March 14th, 2 years ago. You'd been in hostile board meetings all day, people questioning your Singapore strategy. You came back to the office at 11 p.m. I was still here, in the file room. I heard you in your office. I thought I should leave, give you privacy. But then I heard you were crying. You'd pulled out one of your mother's letters, the one where she talks about carrying other people's doubts when you're drowning in your own. And you just broke for maybe 5 minutes. Then you pulled yourself together and went back to work. I wrote a report to Raine that night, told him you were emotionally compromised, that the Singapore pressure was fracturing your confidence. He used it, told his investor network that Ashford leadership was unstable. That's part of why you lost that deal. The worst betrayal. Not intelligence. Intimacy weaponized. I was emotionally compromised. I know. So you weren't lying. I was violating you. There's a difference between truth and betrayal. I reported a fact, but I turned your private grief into ammunition. 5 seconds of silence. I'm sorry. Stop apologizing. I don't know how to... Just stay. Through this. Through tomorrow. Just stay. The request as vulnerability. The answer as commitment. I'm not going anywhere. If you witnessed someone's most private moment of pain and traded it for your family's survival, could you ever forgive yourself, even if they forgave you? 4:03 a.m. Nadia in the executive kitchen, espresso machine hissing. She's making coffee. 2 shots, 45-second extraction, no sugar. Film of crema the color of burnt sienna. The ritual she performed 1,000 times. The one true thing she gave him, she'd said. She carries 2 cups back, sets one in front of Callum, keeps one for herself. First time they've shared the ritual as equals. You didn't have to. I wanted to. He picks it up, drinks. The ritual resumes, cautiously, with full knowledge of what it means. The coffee is perfect. It's always been perfect. They work in silence for another hour, finalizing details, running scenarios. The darkness outside beginning to gray. Not dawn yet, but its promise. Around 5:20 a.m., Callum's head drops to his desk. Not intentionally. Exhaustion just claims him. Nadia looks up, sees him,
Doesn't wake him. Instead, she stands, takes off her jacket. The blazer she's been wearing since yesterday afternoon, since she walked out of Raine's server room with stolen files and shattered illusions. She drapes it over his shoulders, adjusts it gently. He doesn't wake. "I'll stay." The promise made to him sleeping, which makes it more true. First light touches the windows, cold and clean. The city waking. Marcus stirs in the corner chair, opens his eyes, sees Nadia standing over Callum, protective, says nothing, closes his eyes again. Some things don't need witnessing. 6 a.m. approaches. Sunday, 6:02 a.m. Wall Street Journal homepage. Refreshing. The headline loads. Ashford Telecom CEO allegedly concealed 5G infrastructure delays, misled investors on expansion timeline. The silence after the bomb drops. "Callum." She rotates the laptop. He reads. The article is comprehensive, forensic. 6,000 words detailing Melbourne delays, postponed FCC approvals, the Q2 earnings call. They have screenshots, email timestamps, board meeting minutes. Reading aloud, steady but tight. Second source corroboration from individuals familiar with company operations. Raine's been cultivating sources inside the company for months. "We're at $34, dropping. $33.50, $32.90. Free fall by market open." Callum's phone explodes. Text notifications, voicemails, emails, board members, investors, media. Everyone demanding answers simultaneously. He silences it. "Marcus, is the press conference confirmed for 7:30? "Confirmed. Streaming on all major financial networks." "And the SEC filing?" "Queued. Raine's financial records go live at 7 a.m., 30 minutes before your presser." The desk phone rings. The direct line. Board members only. Callum Ashford. Listening. Expression hardening. "Emergency session convened in 20 minutes. Understood." He hangs up. "The board?" "Elena. She's invoking emergency governance protocols. They're voting on my removal." 6:34 a.m. Emergency boardroom, 67th floor. All 11 board members assembled in 32 minutes. "I'll keep this simple. The Wall Street Journal is accusing our CEO of securities fraud. Our stock is in free fall. Institutional investors are calling for explanations we don't have. And I'm learning about material concealment from the press instead of our fiduciary briefings. Did you or did you not knowingly conceal the Melbourne delay timeline from investors?" Every eye on Callum. "I delayed public disclosure on advice of counsel while we negotiated FCC extensions. That's legal. It's not concealment." "Splitting hairs. You told investors infrastructure expansion was proceeding on schedule. That's a material misstatement. There's a Wall Street Journal exposé calling you a liar, and a stock price that's lost 16% in 30 minutes. Semantics don't matter. Optics do." Motion. Remove Callum Ashford as CEO effective immediately. Second. Callum stands. "Before you vote, I'm asking for 2 hours." The room stills. 2 hours to do what? "To address this publicly, I have a press conference scheduled for 7:30. Give me until 9:30. If the stock hasn't stabilized and I haven't restored confidence, I'll resign. No fight. Clean exit." Does this plan involve the woman who's been selling us out to Desmond Raine for 3 years? It involves the truth. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. Elena raises her hand. Silence. Instant.
absolute. Here's what I think. I think you're about to do something profoundly stupid. Something your mother would have done. Something principled and self-destructive and probably doomed. I think you're going to defend that woman publicly. Explain her actions. Ask for understanding. And I think the board will interpret that as catastrophically compromised judgment. He doesn't deny it. But I also think if we fire you right now, we look reactive, panicked. We validate the narrative that leadership is unstable. She turns to the board. I'm tabling the removal vote. Callum has until 9:30. If he fails, we reconvene and vote. If he succeeds, she looks at him. We'll deal with the espionage issue separately. This is insane. You're giving him rope to hang himself. I'm giving him 2 hours to prove his mother's principles weren't just beautiful naivety. And if they were, we'll know by breakfast. The vote to table? 6-5. Callum survives. By 1 vote. 6:58 a.m. Hallway outside boardroom. Well, 2 hours, 9:30 deadline. The press conference is at 7:30. Market opens 9:30. Exactly enough time for investors to react to whatever I say. If the stock stabilizes, I keep my job. If it craters further, he doesn't finish. SEC filing just went live. Raine's financial records are public. 3 networks already running stories about instability in Raine capital acquisition offer. He'll pivot, hold a press conference of his own, frame himself as the victim of a smear campaign. Soon, maybe 9 a.m., right after your presser before market open. He'll want the last word.
32 minutes until I'm live. Let's go. 7:11 a.m. Executive floor corridor. Elena emerges from a side office, intercepts them.
Callum, a word. Your mother once bet everything on a principle. 2003, telecom bubble collapse. She refused to lay off R&D staff even though the board demanded it. She won that fight. The patents we developed that year are worth $2 billion now. But she almost lost the company. It was closer than anyone knows. Are you telling me to back down? I'm telling you, that principle has a price, and sometimes you pay it even when you win. She glances toward Nadia. She's not worth your career. You're right. Elena looks surprised. She's not worth my career. But the truth is, and I'd rather lose honestly than win by hiding. You sound exactly like her. Her voice catches. It's infuriating. She straightens his tie, a gesture of affection disguised as formality. Go, do what you have to do. But know that if this goes wrong, I can't protect you. And Callum, your mother would have been proud, even if she would have been furious. He nods, walks back to Nadia and Marcus. When principle and survival collide in public view, is choosing truth over safety courage or just privilege in disguise? 7:24 a.m. Press prep room. 6 minutes to broadcast. You don't have to do this. You can give a standard CEO statement, deny wrongdoing, promise cooperation, move on. You don't have to. She can't say it. Forgive you publicly? Yes, I do. It'll destroy your credibility. Or it'll redefine the story. Raine wants me to hide you. That's his trap. The only move he's not expecting is radical transparency. What if transparency isn't enough?
Then we lose together. I can live with that. Marcus knocks. 2 minutes, they're ready for you. Good luck. Stay close. I want you visible when I say what I'm going to say. Callum, if I'm in the room, the press will... Exactly. No hiding. No ambiguity. You're part of this story, so you're part of telling it. She nods, terrified and resolved. The door opens, revealing the press room, packed, cameras everywhere, the machinery of public reckoning. Beyond the door, blinding lights. They step toward it together. Cut to black. The sound of cameras clicking rises. Then, Sunday, 7:03 a.m., Raine Capital HQ. Conference room transformed into press venue. 20 reporters, cameras everywhere. Desmond Raine at the podium, Navy suit, American flag pin, the costume of Rescue Capitalism. Good morning. Like many of you, I woke this morning to troubling reports about Ashford Telecom's leadership practices. As someone who's spent 30 years building American companies, I'm deeply concerned. Villain framing himself as hero, appropriating moral language. Ashford employs 15,000 people, hard-working Americans who depend on responsible leadership. The allegations in this morning's Wall Street Journal, if true, represent a fundamental breach of that responsibility. Mr. Raine, can you confirm Raine Capital is preparing an acquisition offer? Yes. Over the past weeks, my team and I have been preparing a stabilization package, not a hostile takeover, a partnership. A way to preserve jobs, restore investor confidence, ensure this iconic American company survives. He's positioned the attack as rescue, before Callum can even speak. What's your response to this morning's SEC filing showing instability in Raine Capital's financing? That filing represents standard disclosure of leveraged acquisition financing. What it shows is transparency. We're not hiding our financial structure, unlike some. Turning his vulnerability into proof of transparency versus Callum's alleged concealment. Any comment on reports you employed a corporate spy inside Ashford? Raine Capital engages in standard competitive intelligence, all legal, all ethical. If Ashford's leadership made poor hiring decisions that exposed them to competitive disadvantage, that's a failure of their security protocols. Not our methods. Legal deniability while confirming the espionage. Blaming Callum for Nadia without naming her. 7:11 a.m., Ashford Tower, Callum's office. Nadia watching, frozen. The crawl reads, Raine Capital offers rescue package for troubled Ashford Telecom. Stocks at $31, still falling. 3 institutional investors just released statements evaluating all options. Translation: they're hedging toward Raine. Nadia's phone buzzes. Watching? You did good work. By Monday, Ashford is ours. Your family's visa interviews proceed as scheduled, assuming you stay quiet. One word to Callum about our Saturday conversation, and I cancel everything. DR. She deletes the text, hands shaking. Raine's offer looks increasingly attractive compared to the leadership uncertainty at Ashford. We're running out of time. Callum goes live in 19 minutes. If Raine's already positioned himself as the savior, Callum's confession is going to look like desperation. Raine set this up perfectly. The journal story makes Callum look dishonest. The SEC filing makes Raine look transparent. His press conference makes him look heroic. And when Callum forgives me publicly, Raine's narrative becomes CEO with compromised judgment defending the spy who destroyed him. So what do? We do it anyway. Why? Because the alternative is letting Raine control the story forever, and I'm done being his asset.
Raine's private office, 7:14 a.m., Raine Capital. Private office behind press room. Clean execution. CNN's running your quotes as the headline. Raine loosens his tie. The flag pin comes off, set on the desk like a prop returned to storage. The mask removed. The calculation exposed. Ashford goes live in 17 minutes. Intel suggests he's planning some kind of public confession. Let him. I've already framed the narrative. Whatever he says will be interpreted through the lens we've created. The board will vote to accept our offer by Tuesday.
It's over.
What about Cole? She completed deliverables. Do we proceed with the visa approvals?
No.
Sir? She served her purpose. The visa sponsorship was always contingent on completion of services. I'm defining that as silence post-acquisition. If she stays quiet through the transition, I'll process the paperwork. If she doesn't, let the State Department bureaucracy work its usual magic. Applications lost, interviews rescheduled indefinitely. I never have to explicitly cancel. It just doesn't happen. Cut her loose? Cut her loose. She was always disposable. The only thing I needed from her was to make Callum doubt himself. Mission accomplished. If someone kept their word only when it served them, were they ever really giving you a choice? Or just renting your hope? 7:16 a.m., Callum's office. Nadia at the TV. Commercial break. Her reflection ghosted in the dark screen. She turns it off. The silence sudden, absolute. She pulls out her phone, opens a new text to Callum. Raine knew about the Saturday heist. Let me steal the files on purpose. Has a third-party buyer ready. Even if your counter-narrative works, he's planned for it. Her thumb hovers over send. If she sends it, Callum knows the strategy might be doomed. Knows she withheld this for 16 hours. If she doesn't, she's still keeping secrets. 5 seconds. She deletes the message. Not because it would help, because knowing wouldn't change what he has to do, and because she finally trusts his judgment more than her strategic calculation. Faith as surrender. Love as letting go of control. He's going to win. Then, quieter to herself, not if we redefine victory. The door opens. Callum enters, looking for her. 7:17 a.m., 13 minutes before broadcast. Callum enters his office, finds Nadia by the window, city sprawling behind her. She turns, doesn't speak immediately. Marcus said you were watching Raine's press conference. I was. He's good. Positioned.
Himself. Perfectly. By the time you go live, half the audience will already believe he's the answer and you're the problem. Callum crosses to his desk, picks up the crisis response notes Marcus prepared, sets them down without reading. I'm not using these. Callum? Simply, like stating fact, I'm going to tell them everything. The espionage, your role, Raine's leverage, the family visas, the coercion. All of it. And I'm going to forgive you. Publicly. On camera. That'll destroy you. The board will call it compromised judgment. Investors will bail. Moving toward her, stops 3 feet away. I know. But if I hide it, Raine controls the narrative forever. If I own it, if I stand up and say, yes, she betrayed me, and yes, I understand why, and yes, I'm choosing to move forward anyway, then I take his weapon away. You're not moving forward. You're committing career suicide. No, I'm sacrificing my image for the truth. There's a difference. The distinction, image versus truth, the moral center.
She turns to the window. Why would you sacrifice your career, your mother's legacy, everything you've built, for me? I'm not doing it for you. She flinches. I'm doing it because I'd rather lose honestly than win by pretending. Because if I condemn you to save myself, I become exactly what Raine is. And because you came back, when you had every reason to run, you came back. That has to mean something. She turns back, eyes wet. It means I was trying to undo 3 years of damage in 3 days. It means I was desperate and guilty, cutting her off, not unkindly. It means you chose. You chose truth over safety. You chose to help me, even knowing Raine had planned for it. You chose to stay. The coffee. The late nights. I need you to know those weren't part of the plan. I know. How? Vulnerability he's never shown. Because I felt it too. And I've spent 3 years pretending I didn't. The admission hangs between them. 3 years of professionalism, of carefully maintained boundaries, of 6:47 a.m. coffee rituals that meant everything and nothing. All of it recontextualizing. She steps toward him. 1 step, then another. They're close now. I don't know if what I felt was real, or if I just wanted it to be real so badly that I convinced myself. Does it matter? Yes, because if it wasn't real, then I manipulated you even when I thought I was being honest. And if it was real, then I betrayed you while loving you. I don't know which is worse. I do. The second one is worse. And the second one is also the only one that matters. For 3 seconds, they stand there. No strategy, no roles, no audience. Just 2 people who made terrible choices and might love each other anyway. The city sprawls behind them, indifferent. The clock ticks toward 7:30. In 11 minutes, he'll walk into a press conference that might destroy his career. In 12 minutes, she'll stand in the back of the room, visible, complicit, redeemed or condemned, depending on how the world decides to see them. She almost kisses him. Her hand lifts toward his face. Doesn't. The restraint as more intimate than contact. Win or lose, thank you for seeing me. I always did. That was the problem. 7:20. 10-minute warning. The spell breaks. She steps back, smooths her jacket, the armor resettling. Your tie's crooked. Her hands reach up, straightening his tie. The intimacy of the gesture after everything unsaid. He doesn't move, lets her adjust the silk, watches her face. Better. She doesn't step away immediately. His hand covers hers, stilling it against his chest. Nadia, if this goes wrong, if the board votes me out, if the stock craters, if this whole thing collapses, it won't. But if it does, I need you to know it was worth it. The risk, the truth, all of it. She nods, doesn't trust her voice. He releases her hand, steps back. The CEO returning. Let's go. She stops at the door. Callum. He turns back. The terrible pun. About bandwidth and relationships. 3 weeks after I started. I really did laugh. That part was real. He smiles. I know. That's when I knew I was in trouble. They hold each other's eyes. If you betrayed someone while loving them, does the love make the betrayal unforgivable? Or does it make forgiveness the only thing that matters? She opens the door. The hallway beyond is harsh fluorescent, institutional.
the world they have to face. Marcus is waiting. Press room is ready. Full house. Every major network. Boards watching on closed circuit. You don't have to be in the room. You can watch from here. No. You said no hiding. No ambiguity. I'm part of this story. Then let's finish it. They walk down the corridor, the three of them. Tactician, operative, security chief. Toward the press room, where cameras wait and the world is watching. And everything they've built in 3 days is about to be tested in 3 minutes. The press room doors ahead, light blazing beyond. They reach for the handles together. 7:30 a.m. Broadcast begins. Packed press room. 20 cameras, 40 reporters, lights blinding. Callum sits at a simple table. No podium, no barrier between him and the cameras. Behind him, the Ashford Telecom logo. 60 years of legacy watching. Good morning. My name is Callum Ashford. 3 days ago, I learned that my executive assistant of 3 years, Nadia Cole, was employed by Desmond Raine to gather proprietary intelligence. The room stills. She did. For 37 months, she reported our strategic decisions, board dynamics, private communications to Raine Capital. Every major leak we experienced, every competitive disadvantage, she was the source. In the back corner, Nadia stands with Marcus. Visible if you're looking, invisible if you're focused on Callum. Adjacent conference room, the board. Elena at the center. Harrison and Judith already disapproving. I'm not here to minimize that. Corporate espionage is serious. The damage is real. And it's my responsibility. But I'm also here to provide context, because Desmond Raine didn't just hire a spy. He engineered a trap. The room's energy shifts, reporters sensing a deeper story. The coercion. 6 months before Ms. Cole applied here, she was living in the Republic of Georgia. Economic collapse. Her father had a stroke, drowning in medical debt. Raine Capital approached her, offered a solution, a job in New York, 6-figure salary, and full visa sponsorship for her entire family. All she had to do was get hired at Ashford Telecom and report everything she observed. By the time she learned the actual job description, Raine had already paid thousands in legal fees, had her family's applications in process, and made clear that if she refused, he'd cancel everything and ensure she was blacklisted. Reframing from betrayal to coercion, without excusing it. 6 months ago, she tried to stop. I know because our IT security found a draft email, subject line, "I'm sorry." No recipient, no body text. Just that subject line and a timestamp, 2:47 a.m. on a Saturday. She wrote that email the night I told her about my mother's battle with cancer, the night she realized she wasn't spying on a billionaire. She was betraying a person. But she didn't send it, because Raine had her family's future in his hands. So here's what I want to say about Nadia Cole. The room holds its breath. She made a terrible choice, took a job that required her to violate trust, to weaponize intimacy. That's inexcusable. And, not but. And she came back. When she could have disappeared, when Raine offered to honor the visas if she'd just stay quiet, she came back. She told me everything, helped us understand Raine's strategy, risked her family's immigration status to give us the information we needed to fight back. Which brings me to the countermove. This morning, I submitted Desmond Raine's complete financial records to the SEC, records that Ms. Cole obtained at significant personal risk. Those records show that Raine Capital's rescue offer is leveraged almost entirely on junk bonds and conditional investor commitments. If this acquisition proceeds, Ashford doesn't get saved. It gets stripped for parts and sold. 15,000 jobs disappear so one man can settle a 23-year grudge against my late mother. Evelyn Ashford rejected Desmond Raine's partnership proposal in 2001, called his business model rapacious short-termism. He spent 2 decades proving her wrong by building billion-dollar companies. And now he's trying to destroy hers to make his final point. But here's what he didn't account for. My mother taught me that trust is the only currency that appreciates with time. That you build companies, real companies, by betting on people, even when they disappoint you. Especially when they disappoint you. So I'm not asking for your sympathy. I'm not asking you to excuse what Ms. Cole did. I'm asking for accountability, not just for her. For all of us who've built a business culture where desperation is a weapon and loyalty is something you rent. Desmond Raine didn't break any laws. He just found someone vulnerable and offered her a choice between survival and integrity. That's legal. It's also monstrous. The press room silent now. Not shock. Consideration. Reporters have stopped typing. Cameras still recording, but operators are listening. Nadia, if you're watching, she wasn't expecting this. I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, not because the betrayal didn't hurt or the damage isn't real, but because I refuse to let anger make me like the man who used you. Because I'd rather rebuild trust from ruins than build an empire on suspicion. And because you're the only person in 3 years who made me laugh at my own terrible jokes. And I'm choosing to believe that mattered. To both of us. If someone hurt you while being hurt themselves, does forgiving them make you weak? Or does it make you the only one strong enough to break the cycle? 7:44 a.m. Board conference room. Broadcast just ended. That was corporate suicide. He just admitted to employing a spy and forgave her on national television. The institutional investors will crucify us. We need to vote now. Wait. Everyone stops. She holds up her phone. Text from Margaret Chen, Vanguard Institutional, sent 2 minutes ago. That was the most honest thing I've seen a CEO do in 30 years. Vanguard is backing Ashford. We're issuing a statement of confidence within the hour. The room stills. BlackRock. They're backing Ashford. Fidelity just released a statement, applauds CEO transparency and moral leadership. The institutional investors are rallying. They're not seeing compromised judgment. They're seeing principle. Stock price. It's climbing. Everyone looks at her. $33, $34, $35.50. Market's responding. The motion to remove Callum is tabled indefinitely. We're backing him, unanimously. 7:51 a.m. Private office. Callum, Nadia, Marcus. Financial networks are running your full statement. Not sound bites, the whole thing. Social media is exploding. CEO forgives spy is trending. But the sentiment is positive. Radical transparency. Moral leadership. One viral tweet. This is how you beat sociopaths. You refuse to become one. The stock? $37 and climbing. Institutional investors issuing statements of support. Raine's offer is collapsing. But Callum isn't looking at Marcus. He's looking at Nadia. You didn't have to do that. The forgiveness. On camera. You could have left it ambiguous. I know. It'll cost you. With people who'll always see me as... I know. But I'd rather pay that cost than spend the rest of my life wondering if I was brave enough to mean what I said about second chances.
Marcus leaves. Door closes. Just them now. The performance over. The truth remaining. Thank you for seeing me, for making me feel like maybe I'm not just the worst thing I've ever done. You're not. And I'm not just the best thing I've ever inherited. We're both just people, making it up as we go, sometimes badly. What happens now? Now we find out if radical transparency actually works long-term, or if I just made the most expensive emotional decision in corporate history. Small smile from both. Fragile. And if it doesn't work? Then we lose together, and I'll still be glad I said it. The coffee ritual, tomorrow morning, 6:47. I'll be there, same as always. Nothing's the same. As always. No, it's better. Because now, it's honest. Marcus returns, door opening. Elena wants you both in the investor briefing this afternoon. She's positioning Nadia as a consultant who helped expose Raine's predatory practices. The narrative's shifting. We might actually survive this. You up for it? She straightens, the spy becoming the strategist. The same person choosing a different story. Yes. 3 of them in morning light, exhausted and upright. The war not over, but winnable. 2:47 p.m. Emergency board session reconvenes. 7 hours since the broadcast. The world has responded. Stock at $39 and holding. Institutional investors backing Ashford publicly. Raine's acquisition withdrawn by 3 major funders. But the board is fracturing in real time. Harrison sits, with arms crossed, face carved from granite. Judith stares at her tablet, refreshing compulsively. Elena stands at the head of the table. She looks older than this morning, tired in a way that coffee can't fix. We've delayed this long enough. The motion stands. Remove Callum Ashford as CEO. We vote. Those in favor of removing Callum Ashford as CEO, raise your hand. 5 hands rise. Harrison, Judith, 3 others. Those opposed? 4 hands. 5-4. 1 vote short of removing him. All eyes turn to Elena, the deciding vote. She stands, doesn't raise her hand yet, walks slowly around the table, the way she does when she's teaching instead of deciding. I've served this company for 20 years. I watched Evelyn Ashford build it from regional carrier to national infrastructure. I watched her make decisions that cost her board seats, investor confidence, sleep. And I watched her never compromise on the principle that transparency and trust matter more than quarterly earnings. Callum Ashford told the truth this morning, when it would have been easier to bury it. He explained context without excusing betrayal. He asked for accountability for systems, not just individuals. And he forgave publicly when every advisor would have told him to condemn privately. Harrison calls that compromised judgment. She looks at him directly. I call it character. That broadcast was the bravest thing I've seen a CEO do in 2 decades. Not the smartest, not the safest, but the bravest. I vote to retain Callum Ashford as CEO. The room erupts, some applauding, others shouting objections. This is insane! 6-5. Callum remains CEO. Meeting adjourned. If that's the board's decision, then I resign. Effective immediately. The first domino. Judith closes her tablet with precision. As do I. A third board member stands. I'm sorry, Elena.
I can't serve on a board that prioritizes sentiment over fiduciary duty.
He looks at Callum.
You're a good man, but this company needs strategic leadership, not moral theater.
He walks out. Victory that tastes like ash. We'll need to fill 3 board seats. Immediately. She looks at Callum. You won, barely, and it cost us institutional memory, strategic expertise, political stability. Was it worth it? Ask me in 6 months. Honesty instead of certainty. Thank you, Elena, for believing. I didn't believe in you. I believed you were your mother's son. I'm still deciding if that's a compliment. He nods, leaves. 3:04 p.m., executive floor corridor. Staff members he passes don't know whether to congratulate him or avoid eye contact. He survives on a 6-5 vote after losing 3 board members. That's not a victory parade. He reaches the outer office, where Nadia's desk has been for 3 years. Empty. The computer monitor dark, the desk surface clean. The small succulent plant she kept by the keyboard, gone. The nameplate holder, empty. The brass plate that read Nadia Cole, Executive Assistant, removed, leaving only the screw holes. Absence as presence. The ritual space erased. He stands there for 10 seconds that feel like minutes. Hollow victory crystallizing. He saved his job, but she's gone. She cleared out around noon, while you were in the board meeting. Left her key card, building access badge, laptop. Said to tell you congratulations. The goodbye happened while he was fighting to stay. Did she say where she was going? Just that it was time. Callum touches the empty desk surface, the space where coffee cups used to wait. There's a letter in your office. She left it on your desk. If you won everything you fought for, but lost the only person who made the fight feel real, did you win or just survive? Callum nods, but doesn't move immediately. Just stands there, looking at the empty space where the only real thing in 3 years used to be. The sun drops below the building line, the warm amber going gray. He walks into his office. The door closes. Hold on the empty desk. The city beyond the windows, oblivious. The ritual space waiting for someone who isn't coming back. Sunday, 4:17 p.m., Raine Capital. Desmond Raine sits behind the Boeing wing desk. 3 monitors glow. All 3 screens tell the same story in different languages. SEC announces formal investigation into Raine Capital acquisition practices. Institutional investors withdraw from Ashford bid. Raine's leveraged model under scrutiny after Ashford CEO's exposé. Simon by the window, phone pressed to ear. Yes, we're cooperating fully with the SEC. No, the Ashford offer has been postponed, not withdrawn. That was Meridian Ventures. They're pulling their capital commitment, citing reputational concerns. That's the 4th major investor in 2 hours. The Ashford acquisition is dead. Raine finally looks up, voice calm. What's our exposure on the leverage positions? Significant. $800 million in junk bond commitments contingent on the Ashford deal closing. We can restructure. Offshore the positions. Reroute through Cayman entities. Bury the paper trail. Desmond, the SEC is already looking. If we start moving assets, the SEC is always looking. I've weathered 3 federal investigations. They're slow. We're fast. By the time they subpoena the holding structures, the losses will be distributed across enough shell companies that no single entity takes a catastrophic hit. Predator wounded, but not killed. Already adapting. What about criminal exposure? There is none. Everything we did was legal. Aggressive, yes. Ethically questionable, perhaps, but legal. Callum's broadcast didn't expose crimes, it exposed methods. And methods aren't prosecutable. Wealth as armor. Legality as shield. We take the reputational hit, lie low for 6 months, rebrand under a subsidiary, and start again. I've done this before. After 2008, after the dot-com implosion. You don't build $8 billion companies without learning how to survive your own failures. He'll survive. Diminished, but not destroyed. What about Ashford? Do we retaliate? No, it's over. Callum won this round. The admission costs something. But there'll be another round. There always is. Men like him, principled, transparent, eager to be liked, they make mistakes eventually. And when he does, we'll be positioned. He opens a drawer, pulls out a silver frame. The photo inside is old, colors slightly faded. 23 years by the timestamp. Young Desmond Raine shaking hands with Evelyn Ashford at an investor conference. She's smiling politely, professionally. He's smiling like he's already won. She was wrong about me. Called my model rapacious short-termism. Said I lacked vision. He traces the edge of the frame. I built 8 unicorns, turned rapacious short-termism into the standard playbook. Proved that leverage and speed beat legacy and loyalty every time. So why does it still feel like she was right? He never wanted to prove Evelyn wrong. He wanted her to acknowledge he was right. Wanted her respect, her admission, her approval. She died without giving it. And destroying her son's company didn't provide it posthumously. He can't win the fight he's actually fighting. He sets the frame face down, pauses, then picks it up and walks to the trash bin. It's done. Ashford won. Not because he was smarter. Because he was willing to lose everything for principle. And I wasn't willing to win that way. He opens his laptop, begins typing. An email. You played well. See you in the next round. Doctor. He sends it, the whoosh of the message leaving. 4:23 p.m. Callum's office. 6 minutes later. Email notification appearing. He's been staring at Nadia's letter for 15 minutes. Unopened. He opens the email, reads Raine's message. For 5 seconds, he considers responding. The cursor hovers over reply. Then he closes the email, drags it to trash. Empties trash. The ultimate dismissal. Not engaging is the victory. If your enemy offers you endless rounds of the same fight, is refusing to play winning or just walking away tired? Marcus, working in the corner, looks up. Raine? Yeah. What'd he say? Doesn't matter. Callum returns his attention to Nadia's letter. White envelope, his name in her handwriting. Precise, controlled. The penmanship of someone who learned English as a calculated skill. You going to read it? Callum touches the envelope, doesn't open it. Not yet. Why not? Because once I read it, that's the end. Whatever she wrote, it's her last word. And I'm not ready for it to be over. Marcus closes his laptop. I'm heading out. You should go home. Sleep. At the door. For what it's worth, you did the right thing, even if it doesn't feel like it yet. Ask me in 6 months. Marcus leaves. Door closes. Callum alone with the letter. The empty office. The city darkening beyond the windows. He picks up the envelope, holds it to the fading light. Can't see through it. Can't know without opening. He sets it down, stands, walks to the window. Dusk claiming the city, buildings lighting up one by one. Below, somewhere in those 8 million people, Nadia exists. Moving through her own aftermath, making her own choices. He pulls out his phone, opens a new text. Types, "Thank you for the letter. I'm not ready to read it yet, but I will be. When I am, can we talk?" His thumb hovers over send. 10 seconds. He deletes it, puts the phone away. Choosing not to reach out is also a choice, respecting her departure. The letter stays on his desk. The city keeps lighting up. The empire survives, fractured but standing. And somewhere, Desmond Raine's email sits in digital oblivion. The next round threatened, but not scheduled. Callum at the window. Letter behind him. City beyond. Full dusk now. The amber entirely gone. Just the cold white of artificial lights. The building settling. The Sunday quiet. The aftermath. Sunday, 11:34 a.m. Nadia's apartment, Astoria, Queens. 4th floor walk-up. November light through a single window. The modest space of someone who never planned permanence. 3 cardboard boxes, 2 suitcases, 1 carry-on bag. Everything she owns in New York fits into containers designed for leaving. The furniture came with the apartment, IKEA basics, functional and forgettable. The walls are bare except for nail holes from pictures she took down an hour ago. The only photograph she's keeping sits on top of the nearest box. Her mother, 2 sisters, standing in front of their Tbilisi apartment, smiling at a future that included her. She's wearing jeans and a Georgetown sweatshirt someone left in the building's laundry room. No armor, no performance, just the version of herself that exists when no one's watching. Her phone sits on the kitchen counter, silent. She turned off notifications after clearing out her desk. Doesn't want to see the news coverage, the social media reactions, the world's judgment of what she and Callum did this morning. She's labeling the 3rd box when her phone rings. She almost doesn't answer, but the screen shows unknown number. 2 rings. 3. Hello? Nadia, it's Elena Voss. She wasn't expecting this. He didn't ask me to call. I need you to understand that. Callum doesn't know I'm doing this. Nadia sits on the edge of the bed, the one piece of furniture she bought herself. Okay? The word small in the empty room. I'm calling because I need you to understand something. You broke his trust. You violated every professional boundary. You weaponized intimacy for 3 years. I know. But you didn't break him. That broadcast this morning, that was the bravest thing I've seen a CEO do in 20 years. The most honest. The most like his mother. And you made it possible. By coming back. By telling the truth when you could have run. By standing in that press room where everyone could see you. Validation from unexpected source. I did run, Elena.
I'm packing right now. Boxes are sealed. I'll be gone by tonight.
Silence on the line.
Where are you going? I don't know yet. Somewhere I can do something that matters. Immigrant advocacy, maybe? Visa assistance? Use what I learned about the system to help people who got trapped the way I did. That sounds like running toward, not away, which is different. The board doesn't own your life. Neither does Callum. Neither does your guilt. This is your choice, Nadia, not your handlers, not your employers. Yours. I know. That's why I'm leaving. Not because I'm afraid of what they'll say, not because Raine's still out there, but because if I stay, I'll always be the person who betrayed him, who he forgave publicly. That'll be my identity. His act of grace and my permanent shame. And I need to be someone who chose something, not someone things happened to. Choosing dignity over gratitude, agency over redemption. Your mother would be proud. Not of what you did, of what you're doing now. You don't know my mother. No. But I know what it looks like when someone stops apologizing and starts building. Callum will understand. Eventually. Maybe not today. But he'll understand that some things you repair by leaving them alone to heal. Thank you for calling, Don't thank me. Just do the work. Help people who need it. And Nadia, if you ever want a reference for nonprofit positions, you have my number.
The call ends.
If the kindest thing you can do for someone who forgave you is leave, does that make the forgiveness real? Or does it prove you were never meant to stay? She sits with what was said, the validation she didn't ask for, the permission she didn't know she needed. She stands, walks to the kitchenette, opens the drawer where she keeps the few things that matter. Passport, birth certificate, the Gmail printout of her family's visa interview confirmation for December 10th, that she'll never use because Raine will cancel it the moment he realizes she's gone for good. And beneath those, a white envelope, letter-sized, sealed but not addressed yet. She takes it out, sits at the small table, writes on the envelope in her precise script. Callum. Just his name. No title, no formality. She places it on the kitchen counter, center. Impossible to miss if he comes looking, which part of her hopes he won't, and part of her hopes he will. What it contains stays sealed, private. She returns to packing, finishes the third box, seals it with tape that sounds like tearing. By 1 p.m., everything is packed. By 1:30, the boxes are labeled for shipping. She'll send them to a storage facility in Philadelphia, where a college friend said she could stay while figuring out next steps. By 2 p.m., she's standing in the empty apartment with her 2 suitcases and carry-on. The space looks like it did when she moved in 3 years ago. Neutral. Waiting. Belonging to no one. She takes one last look at the letter. Considers adding something, a postscript, a phone number, an apology that might land differently on paper than it did at 2:47 a.m. 6 months ago. Her hand reaches toward it, doesn't. Leaving it as is, trusting what she wrote when she wrote it. She picks up her bags, opens the door, steps into the hallway. Doesn't look back. Hold on the closed door. The building continues. Other lives, other stories.
the world indifferent to one person's careful exit. Late May, 6 months after departure. Small coffee shop, Park Slope, Brooklyn. Tree-lined street, spring green claiming the city. Afternoon light warm and possible. The coffee shop is the kind of place that doesn't try too hard. Mismatched chairs, local art on exposed brick, intentionally unremarkable. A space for civilians, not executives. Callum sits alone at a corner table, book open but unread. Jeans and a sweater. No suit, no armor. Hair slightly longer, something looser in his shoulders, like he's learning to carry weight differently. He's been coming here on Sundays for 3 weeks, ever since he found the note she'd left in her letter. Just an address, this coffee shop. No explanation. He doesn't know if it's an invitation or just information. But he keeps showing up, 3 p.m. every Sunday, orders an Americano, reads for an hour. Today is his 4th Sunday. The door chimes. Nadia enters. She stops when she sees him. Not surprise, exactly. More like confirmation of a suspicion. She's different, too. Hair shorter, edging toward her natural texture. Jeans, canvas jacket. Canvas bag with a non-profit logo. New American Pathways, immigration advocacy. For 5 seconds, they just look. Assessing damage, measuring healing, deciding whether to run or stay. She walks to his table, doesn't ask if she can sit, doesn't need to. Hi. Hi. Neither knows what comes next. You found the coffee shop. You left the address. Took me 3 months to open the letter, then 3 more to show up. I wasn't sure you would. I wasn't either. Careful choreography, like diffusing a bomb made of memory. The barista appears. Can I get you something? Americano, 2 shots. She orders the same thing he's drinking. Synchronicity, unplanned. You look good. You look different. Longer hair, no tie. I almost didn't recognize you. I'm trying the civilian thing. See if I remember how to be a person instead of a position. How's the company? Surviving. Restructured. I hired a co-CEO to share operational burden. Turns out I'm decent at vision, terrible at execution. He's learning to trust again, to delegate. And you? Philadelphia. Working with New American Pathways. We help immigrant families navigate the visa system. The things Raine promised me and then weaponized. It's hard. Every family I help, I think about how I traded my competence for their desperation. But it also feels like maybe I can turn the worst thing I did into something that matters. Your letter, he says carefully. I know what I wrote. But he reaches into his jacket pocket anyway, pulls out the envelope. Worn now. Edges soft from being carried. Can I? She hesitates. Nods. He opens it. The seal broken months ago, but the paper still creased. He reads aloud, quietly, just for the 2 of them. I can't undo what I did. I can't give you back the 3 years I stole, or the trust I broke. But I can spend the rest of my life becoming someone who wouldn't do it again. I'm leaving because staying would make me your act of grace instead of my own person. And I need to be someone who chose something, not someone things happened to. If you ever want coffee, Not the ritual, not the job, just coffee. You know where to find me. Sundays at 3. The place where I learned that decent espresso doesn't require marble counters or empires. Just attention and care. He folds the letter, sets it on the table between them. I found you. She's crying quietly, not hiding it. You did. The barista returns with her Americano, sets it down, leaves. Nadia looks at her coffee, then at his, then at him. Still perfect? She means his order. Still perfect. He means something else, too. She picks up her cup, doesn't drink. Instead, slides it across the table toward him. Trade. Yours for mine. Mutual offering, neither serving the other. He slides his cup toward her. They exchange. Both drink. The coffee is good, not perfect. Brooklyn good. Human good. But it's the ritual that matters, not the precision. Earned intimacy. No shortcuts, no rescue. Just two people choosing to sit together. Muscle memory. Or maybe I just know you. Or maybe we know each other, finally, without the parts we were performing. What now? Honesty is the point. I don't know. I'm not ready to forgive you without needing you. But I'm closer than I was. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking if you want to keep having coffee. Sundays, here. No pressure. No promises. Just coffee. The simplicity, radical. Yeah. Next Sunday, 3 p.m. Same table? Same table. If you rebuild something broken, but it never looks the same as before, is it weaker for the cracks or stronger for choosing to exist anyway? They don't talk much after that. Don't need to. Just sit, occasionally commenting on the music, the book, her work. Small things, real things. Comfort without resolution, presence without commitment. At 4:15, she checks her watch. I should go. I'm helping a family with their intake paperwork at 5. She stands, gathers her bag, pauses. Callum, the coffee. Every morning at 6:47. That was real. I know. That's why I kept showing up here. Because if that was real, maybe... He doesn't finish. Doesn't need to. Maybe. She walks to the door, turns back once. He's watching. Not smiling, but not smiling either. She leaves. Hold on, Callum at the table. Her empty chair across from him. Both coffee cups drained. He picks up her letter, folds it carefully, returns it to his pocket. Next Sunday, same time, same table. The ritual rebuilt, molecule by molecule. Honest instead of habitual. The golden hour fading, the coffee shop lights coming on. Warmer now. He sits alone, but not lonely. The promise of next Sunday visible in his posture. 1 year later. Ashford Tower, 6:47 a.m. The elevator chimes, G-sharp, familiar. Nadia steps into the executive corridor. She's carrying 2 coffee cups from the Brooklyn place they've been meeting at for 6 months now. She doesn't work here anymore. She visits, once a week, before her shift at the nonprofit. It's not obligation. It's choice. His door is open. He's at his desk, already working. She knocks. You're early. He looks up, smiles. Small. Real. Traffic was light. Their lie, now a joke. Liar, you've been here since 6. 5:45, but who's counting? She sets the coffee cups on his desk, near the photo of his mother he keeps visible now. She sits in the chair across from him, not where she used to sit when she briefed him. A different chair. They moved it here 3 months ago, when the weekly visits shifted to alternating locations. How's the Alvarez case? She updates him. Visa approved. Family reunited after 3 years. He'd funded the legal fees anonymously. She cried for 20 minutes, then insisted I take home enough khachapuri to feed 10 people. Georgian cheese bread. The good kind of problem. They drink their coffee. The city wakes outside, same as always. Oblivious. Relentless. But inside this room, something has shifted. The espresso isn't a ritual of employment anymore. It's a ritual of repair. How was the board meeting yesterday? Long, contentious. Elena thinks I'm being too cautious. She's probably right. What do you think? I think I'm better at asking questions than answering them. She checks her watch. 7:03. I should go. I have a 9 a.m. intake meeting in Philadelphia. You drove an hour to bring me coffee. 73 minutes. But who's counting? She pauses at the door. Same spot where she almost broke a year ago. Turns back. Callum, the apology I never sent. Can I say it now? Only if you mean it differently. I'm not sorry I met you. I'm sorry it happened the way it did. Me too. They hold each other's eyes. 3 seconds. No performance. She leaves. He watches the door close, pulls out his phone. Opens a draft text, 6 months old. I don't know if I love you, or if I love the idea of forgiving you, but I'm willing to find out. He's opened this draft 20 times, never sent it. Deletes it, letting go of needing to define it. Types instead, coffee was perfect. See you next week. Send. 30 seconds later, her phone buzzes. She's in the elevator, descending. She smiles. Types back, 6:47. I'll be early. The promise. Weekly and willing. The elevator reaches the lobby. She steps into November morning. Same month as the broadcast, but a year forward. Somewhere above, 68 floors up, Callum opens his desk drawer. Pulls out the letter he reads most. Trust is the only currency that appreciates with time. He finally understands. Not that trust returns to its original form, but that it can appreciate into something different. Harder won, more honest, built on choice instead of habit. He closes the drawer, returns to work. The empire continues, fractured but standing, honest instead of perfect. They say time heals all wounds. That's a lie. Time just teaches you which scars are worth keeping. Callum and Nadia didn't get a second chance. They got something rarer. A first, honest one. Built not on perfection, but on the decision to keep showing up. 6:47 a.m. every week. Until the coffee ritual stopped being penance and started being home. This is American Billionaire Tales, where fortune meets fate, and the most expensive thing you'll ever own is the truth. Next time, another empire will learn that some inheritances can't be bought, only burned.